In the previous parshas, we already talked about the idea where it says Kedoshim to you, how every individual has the obligation to be holy, separate from the mundane society, and trying to dedicate themselves to what God wants you to do. In this week's parsha, it says the words, hold on, V'kidasho ki es lechem elokecha hu makriv kadosh yihya lach ki kadosh ani Hashem mekadshechem. You shall sanctify him, for he offers the food of your God. He shall remain holy for you, for holy am I who sanctifies you. What it's saying is that it's talking about the Kohen and the Kohen Gadol, who they have a job to be holy because essentially they are the middleman between us and God. It's Rav Hirsch's opinion, who says that what it's saying is because they have an obligation to be holy, and because they are the intermediary for us and God, then we have an obligation to keep them holy also. So it tells us like that who a Kohen Gadol is allowed to be with. I mean, like with what woman is withheld from him spiritually, and who he's supposed to hold himself from. But if he's under a scenario where he is with someone he shouldn't be with, then it's our obligation to push him to divorce her, break up with her, whatever it is. We need to keep him holy. Cool. The Alter Rav says, I'm just going to read it from the quote, when talking about Truma, it uses the word v'zinaru, which comes from the shoresh nezer, which means crown. The idea of that is that it shows you, when it refers to crown, it's talking about the oil that we use to anoint the person by pouring on their head. It shows that they're somebody who's sanctified, they're significant. And what the idea is that, what it teaches us, is that people have this false view that if you're an important person, you can get away with doing whatever you want. Like it's like I'm important, so if I break a mitzvah, or if I whatever it is, then it's okay because I'm on a high horse. I have a hierarchy. I'm whatever it is. So when it's the reason that it's talking about this is to say it's the other way around. It's if someone's holy, then they're held to a higher standard. They have to maintain themselves, and they have to stay holy also. Then it says, "V'shamru es misharti v'lo yasu alav chet umesu vo ki yechalaluhu ani Hashem mekadsham." They shall protect my charge and not bear a sin thereby and die because of it, for they will have desecrated it, for I am Hashem who sanctifies them. So when it says my charge, what it's talking about is the truma. God uses the word my charge to show how significant it is to him. Because it's like, even though it technically belongs to the Kohen himself, and it's not for God in that aspect, it's God saying that it's still important for me. I think it was Rav Hirsch says, God expects Kohanim to treat it to the respect due to something that is God's. The Jewish farmer works the physical earth and shares its produce with the Kohen, who works the spiritual earth. So even something like Truma, which is this physical thing that an ordinary farmer works for, there's no necessarily kedusha to it. It's used for something holy, and that serves the spiritual world, whatever that actually means. Then later it says, Shor o kosev o ez ki yaveled v'haya shivat yamim techas imo umiyom hashmimi v'hal'a yirtzeh lekarban isha lasham. When an ox or sheep or goat is born, it shall remain under its mother for 7 days, and from the 8th day on it is acceptable for a fire offering to Hashem. So the idea, that's where we get the idea from, that if after an animal is born, you should wait 7 days before you use it before you shecht it and you use it for something holy. Which the Zohar compares it to a bris, which is the idea that it's like similar to when a child is born. It says that you should wait until after Shabbos, essentially, for it to give the baby the bris, and the idea that you should make sure that it's healthy and it's alive. And then, V'lo sechalalu es shem kadshi, you shall not desecrate my holy name. Yoma says that desecration of Hashem's name is one of the worst averas that you can do, and it's one of the hardest things that you can make up for. Because there's the idea that when you want to make up for a mitzvah, for an avera, you should do the exact opposite in a mitzvah. I mean, if you look at something negative, something you shouldn't be looking at, then when you cry, it's a purification. If you speak lashon hora about someone, then you should fill your mouth with words of Torah. So the problem is when you desecrate God's name, that you can't make up for it like that. It's incredibly difficult to purify yourself after that. there's a quote from Sforno that says, "On these holy days, Jews desist of their mundane involvement in the week, and devote themselves to Torah and sacred pursuits. These days are God's festivals, but days that are devoted exclusively to gastronomic and physical pleasures are not God's. They are human concoctions that He despises." And the last thing is that Haksav v'Hakabbalah says that dressing nicely and eating festive food makes us focus on the uniqueness of the day. It makes us aware of the potential elevation it offers. And in the middle of the parsha it says, "I am Hashem," and it says that, it repeats that a lot. One of the explanations, I think it was Rashi, who says that the reason he repeats "I am Hashem" is because he's saying that when I am your God and when you do what I command you to do, then I will directly micromanage your life. I won't have a mediator do it for me. So essentially, the point that I want to come across from all the quotes I said is the concept that everything has spirituality and holiness to it. Meaning, if you're the farmer who you're just doing something, you're just trying to work in your field, or it's the piece of bread that you, or whatever it is that you give to the Kohen, or it's the animal that's born, the baby who has the bris, it's the Kohen to the Kohen Gadol, the woman who needs to keep herself away from people, the congregation as a whole. Literally everything that's in this world has a certain level of holiness to it, and it's everyone's own individual responsibility to maintain that level of holiness for that thing. So if it's another person, you need to watch over that person. If it's yourself, you really need to take care of yourself. If it's an animal, it shows that you have an obligation for everything that God created.
How many days a year did a Kohen have to actually serve in the Beis Hamikdash?
7. 7? Or 8?
How do you get that?
Oh no, 14.
How do you
15.
How do you know?
Whole bunch. There's the regalim, and then there's the 2 weeks that they get.
Yeah, it's quite close. Actually, the Kohen was split up into 24 groups, and each group had a week to do service. It's 52 years. So it works out, they had to appear in the Beis Hamikdash twice a year. But when they arrived there, each Kohen had just 1 day, days off. So except for the Yom Tovim, when everybody had to turn up, all the Kohen, because it was very rush hour, the Jewish people coming from all parts of the land, so that all the Kohen had to be there, to be on hand to do the service in the basement. But on a regular week, when it wasn't a Yom Tov, it worked out a Kohen had to do service in the Beis Hamikdash 2 days. What do you do the rest of the year? Right? Twiddle his thumbs. What did he do the whole time? So the service in the Beis Hamikdash necessitated a preparation, and to keep busy, he had to be paying himself a long time before he could go and serve in the Beis Hamikdash. But it wasn't quite so simple, right? That's just a point which is worth thinking about. It wasn't he was there the whole time. It wasn't it just turned up any old time. It was all highly, highly organised. Right? The place, but just a few things come to mind. The place where all the Jewish people were congregated in the Beis Hamikdash wasn't much wider than this Beis Hamikdash, 11 amos. In that space, you had tens of thousands of Jewish people congregated. The Beis Hamikdash was a place where all laws of nature just disappeared. The Lechem Aponim, which is in this week's Seder, right? They placed it every Shabbos. When they came to replace it, the bread which had been there a whole week was just as fresh as the bread which they put on now, the fresh bread. And there's a whole list of Nisim flowers that happens in the Beis Hamikdash. Every single day there was a Nes Hanukkah. They had enough oil in the menorah to last for 12 hours, and there were 2 lights of the menorah which lasted 24 hours. Every single day for 400 years, 800, I'm not sure, but it was a long time. Every single day in the Beis Hamikdash. Every single day the Kohen came along and he went up the ramp and he took a shovel full of ash and he went down there every single morning and he tipped it by the side of the Mizbeach and it disappeared. It was a very, 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 very holy place. Right. Now, it's also we get used to these ideas, but in the world generally, there are, I think 3 major religions, aren't there? There's first of all Judaism, and there's Christianity and Muslims. But everybody agrees that those other 2 religions came from us. Nobody argues that fact. the originator of it all. Where do you get 7 days week from? Who said it should be 7 days? Monday, Tuesday. Well, the whole world accepts that. In China as well, isn't it? China's, how many days have they got? 8 days, is it? No, they're also 7 days. But I think it's universally accepted that a week is 7 days. Why not 8? And from the south, there's quite a lot of things which, it's changing now a little bit because people get more modern minded. I think they have to change things. But when a couple get married, the wife takes the name of the husband. She becomes from Mrs. Brown. From Miss Brown, she becomes Mrs. Smith. Why does she take the husband's name? Why? It's Chumash. So we find that there is lots of things to learn from our Chumash, besides anything else. And it's also interesting to compare our religion to other religions. For example, by the Goyim, if somebody's dying, or something's happened, the first thing you would hear would be call a priest. A priest is called to give the last rites. The last person you would call in Yiddishkeit to a dying person's bedside would be a Kohen. Just the opposite. A Kohen has to get away. He has to go away from anything. There was an instance a few years ago in Mir, quite a few years ago, when suddenly in the middle of the base of Medrash, somebody went up to the bimmer and he gave a bang on the bimmer. You know, he's talking about 100 big base Medrash packed, and as loud as he could say, "Kohen him out!" What happened? One of the Bochum, unfortunately, had some kind of attack and passed away. Kohen had to run out of the place. So Yiddishkeit tells us that a Kohen must have nothing to do with death. The Goyim link death with their religions. A Kohen his job is to show us the way how to live. If you move, I know in England it's different, I'm not sure in America. I've never had the privilege of being there. But if you go in the countryside in England, you'll see churches, country churches, and around the churches you will see a cemetery. They put their cemeteries around their churches. That's the last thing Eden would do. If they did that, a Kohen wouldn't be able to get in. So we devoted nothing to a Kohen. It's got nothing to do with death whatsoever. Kohen his job is to show us how to live. Once a person passes away, no mitzvah's prophet. I think that's the end of the story. Just a short, interesting story to do with Kohanim. I hope you haven't heard it. If you have, it's like somebody once, if you hear a story to somebody who says, I've heard it. So what? I mean, if you hear a nice piece of music, and you hear it a second time, you don't say, well, I've heard it. Right? If any of you have heard this story, or if what I used to do in school was when I began the story and you had someone or other who would call out and say, I've heard it, which kills the story. So I say, all right, come out and tell everybody the story. Oh, and that was a different story altogether. Anyway, there was a couple who had a very loving relationship, a husband and wife. And they got married, they were hoping to build a home, hoping to have children, and years went past, and after 10 years they still weren't blessed with children. He happened to be a Kohen. So, being very Eden, and they wanted to establish, so of course they had all investigations, and all the doctors said that there's nothing wrong with the man, there's nothing wrong with the woman, but it's just they're not compatible. They didn't have any children. So they decided, and it was a loving relationship, there was no question of them separating. For the sake of being able to have children, they were prepared to divorce and get married to somebody else, and they would be blessed with children. And they did so. But they warned this fellow who was a Kohen, you should know there's no going back. Because a Kohen is not allowed to marry a divorced woman. So even if the wife who is divorced, right, and they decide they want to remarry, you can't. And in Halacha there's an incident of a get. The Kohen was supposed to have hot tempers. So a man has a Kohen has he's hot tempered, he has a row with his wife, he gets into a temper, he's going to get rid of it, he runs to the Kohen, he writes to get quickly, right? And then suddenly when he calls down, "Oy vey, what have I done? I want to take her back." Can't. So because they had to get Makusha. Get Makusha was that they wrote one line, folded it over, sewed it down, 2 witnesses, wrote another line, folded it over, and it's such a long process. The time they finished writing together, he had time to cool off. So, just in case. Anyway, this man gave his wife a divorce. A couple of months later, Suddenly she phones him back and she said, I've got good news for you. I don't know what's good news, but she finds that she is pregnant, expecting a child. And who was the father of the child? He was. And could he remarry her? No. So it's, on one hand it was good news, on the other hand it was quite traumatic. He loved this lady, who had a loving relationship. She, at last, was having a child, and he gave her a divorce. So the only thing they could possibly do was try and find some reason why this divorce was invalidated, some reason why it wasn't proceeded. So they went to Rabbi Yashiv. Rabbi Yashiv looked into the matter, and he said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. The get was perfectly kosher, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So I'm afraid you can't remarry her. But Rabbi, you've got to do something, you've got to do something, you've got to do... So Rabbi Yashiv said, the only thing I can suggest is, go to the Kosel and cry out your heart, and daven to Hashem, Hashem Shekhan. Which he did so. And he was davening with all his heart and soul, and somebody comes over to him and says to him, probably somebody who he knew, don't think it was actually Elio or Novi, and somebody who knew him from back home, his parents. And they said to this man, they said, how long is it since you went to visit your parents? Why don't you go back to America and pay your parents a visit? Talked about it. And the fellow came again and he was insisting. And he says to him, why don't you? I thought, yes, that's true. I neglected my parents. I should have been gone. They booked a ticket and he went back and he found his father was quite aged. And the father realised that a person doesn't live forever. He took him aside and he said to him, I've got some information to give you which I've never ever told you before. He said, your mother and I were married many years together. We didn't have children. We weren't blessed with children. So we decided we were going to adopt a child. And the child that we adopted was you. Which therefore means that what? So everything worked out nicely through the whole story, right? There's another, having taught for so many years, there's certain things which stands out, it's always always a mix-up. And some things which are very simple, but people haven't really got it clear, like how many days Yom Tov are there throughout the year? Get mixed up with Sukkot, with Chol, right? So let's see whether we can, who can go the whole. How are we doing for time? We're running a bit short. Now, of course, another point which mixes on up is in Eretz Yisrael it's different than in the Chutz La'aretz. So if I were to ask you, how many days Yom Tov, complete Yom Tov, are there in Eretz Yisrael? That means counting Chalamot as well, throughout the year. Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. How many days Yom Tov are there throughout the year? Anybody, don't guess, try and work it out. How many days are there altogether, all in all?
19?
Pardon?
19?
19 is a bit too quick, it's not giving anybody any time to think.
20.
Pardon?
20.
You say 20, you say 19. Right, how do you get to 20?
7 for
7 for Pesach.
For Pesach, another 7 for...
Another 7 for...
No, 8 for Sukkot.
8 for Sukkot, so that's all together.
Oh wait, Shmini Atzeret, and then 1 for Yom Kippur.
2 for Rosh Hashanah. What number are we up to?
We're at 14, 2 for Rosh Hashanah, 16.
No, 15, 2 for Rosh Hashanah, and then 1 for 15.
Yeah, we could go and then Shavuos.
And then Shavuos, which is 1.
Sure, so how many have you
1.
got? You said?
20.
19 or 20? I've lost the count.
Right.
Let's do it in order. Pesach, Shavuos and Sukkot. Pesach is 7.
Right.
Shavuos is 1.
1.
8.
Yom Kippur is 1.
Now you're in the order of Rosh Hashanah. Let's do the Shalosh Regalim first.
Okay.
Pesach is 7.
Right.
Shavuos is 1. Shavuos. Then you've got Sukkot. Sukkot is
8.
8. Okay, so how many have you got so far? 8 is 16.
Shmini Atzeret was the Oh no, that's the one.
Yeah, you've got your that's 16. Then you've got 1 for Rosh Hashanah.
No, 2 for Rosh Hashanah.
2 Rosh
And 1
Hashanah.
for Yom Kippur.
And so how much is that?
19.
19.
Okay, yeah.
19.
He's right.
Right. How many days Yom Tov have you got in Chutz La'aretz to the whole year?
22.
22. How did you get 22?
You add one for each. You add one on Sukkot, one on Pesach, one on Shavuos.
So you've got, so on your 9, so you've got 22.
Right.
Okay, right. Okay. How many days Chol Hamoed are there in Israel throughout the whole year? If you count all the days of Chol Hamoed, how many days Chol Hamoed are? Quite basic questions, really. I
11.
mean, we're celebrating it year after year. I think you better stay quiet because nobody's got a chance to think. Okay, and we're running out of time, so you take over. How many days have you got all throughout the year?
11.
Pardon?
11.
11. How did you get 11?
By 6 by Sukkot and
6 for Sukkot,
Five by
and it's 11. Okay. And how many days Chol Hamoed have you got in Chutz La'aretz?
take one. You give me 9.
No, how did you get 9?
Because you have to take off a day for second day Yom Tov.
Right, okay,
So
so
you
the
have
Pesach
5
you've
by,
got,
4 by Pesach
four.
and 5 by Sukkot.
so you've got 9 altogether. Okay, have we covered everything? I think so, but in this
Chutz La'aretz is less days?
Pardon?
Because you have to take off a day because there's second day Yom Tov in the beginning.
All this, by the way, is leading to a very short Devar Torah from the Vilna Gaon. And this week says, these are the festivals of Hashem, and it says 6 days you shall work, and on the 7th you shall rest. So Rashi asks, if you're talking about the festivals, why do you mention Shabbos? Rashi asks the Pasha, and Rashi answers, it's to tell you that Yom Tov and Shabbos are just as important. The Vilna Gaon says that 6 days you shall rest, and the 7th day you shall 6 days you can do work, and the 7th day you should rest. Is talking about all the days of Yom Tov, Nida Oraisa, that you can do work for food. Pesach, on Yom Tov you can work to do for Ochel Nefesh, for food. So how many days per thank you very much. We're not quiet. Oh, thank you. Makes a big difference. Right, and on Pesach, how many days have you got a Yom Tov?
Chutz La'aretz are here.
In Midoraisa.
Midoraisa.
Midoraisa. How many days Yom Tov have you got? 2. How many days Shavuos? Midoraisa? 1. How many days Sukkot? 2. 1 day Sukkot and 1 day Shmini Atzeret. So you're up to 6. So 6 days you can work for Ochel Nefesh. The 7th day Yom Tov, which is what? Which is Yom Kippur. So what was the question to start off with? You're thinking about the festivals. Why does the Torah say 6 days you can work, on the 7th you got to, why does it talk about Shabbos? So you can understand this as meaning, right, the days of Yom Tov when you can work, and the 7th day Yom Kippur you can't. Just to end up with, we started with the Khan, you know, maybe you've heard the story as well. A man comes running into shul, and he says to the Gabba, Gabba, I want you to call me up for Kohen. So the Gabba says, I can't do that. Well, how can I do that? He says, I'll give you $10. So the Gabba says, no way, I'll give you $50. So the Gabba says, I'm sorry, you can't do it. I'll give you $250. So the Gabba says, well, for $250 maybe we can push a Kohen. So he calls him up for Kohen, and then afterwards he calls him aside and says, tell me, why were you so eager to be called up to be Kohen? He said, because my father was a Kohen, and my grandfather was a Kohen, and my great-grandfather was a Kohen. Anyone heard that before? Anybody put your hand up?
I heard